Hey everyone, welcome to 50 Shades of Accounting. Today we are diving deep into a topic that's reshaping really the accounting industry as a whole. That is exit strategies. For decades, we have seen that accounting world has been pretty flat without much traction happening when it comes to change of ownership, buying and selling, acquisitions, and so on and so forth. It was just the reasonable amount which was happening. In the last few years, we have seen the landscape shift which is happening in the accounting market, partially because we see that the baby boomers are going out of the job market. And if you remember, guys, these were the entrepreneurs, these were the senior partners who have been working hard throughout their life. And now is the time when they're retiring, of course, for the right reasons. So while they're retiring, there's so much of buying and selling which is taking place. And on top of it, we have got the private equity money which is pouring in.
Mm.
We can literally see that. So to make us, or to help us make sense of all of it, we have got Christine with us. I'm super thrilled to invite, of course, here today. And Christine is an expert in helping accounting firms, helping companies to develop those smart strategies, in fact, exit strategies that we're going to be talking about today. So much looking forward for this conversation. And I'll jump in straight away. Hey, Christine, very, very warm welcome. Super excited to, of course, have you here with us.
Yeah, this is such an important topic, and I am a complete evangelist. So I've got my soapbox. I'm ready to stand on it.
Great, super. So we'll start on right away. So, Christine, now one of the great services I always thought about that accounting firms can offer in the current market situation is really helping their end clients to get them to ready for the exit, because it's not just one industry. There are a lot many other industries who are falling into the same bracket because the baby boomers are going out. So could you help us sort of understand the landscape there, how it works? Because we really see it's only a few progressive firms who may be doing it, but nobody's talking about that really.
Yes, absolutely. The great thing about being an accountant in practice is that you've got this unique insight into every one of your clients. You know where they live, you know how old they are, you know pretty much everything about their business, and you probably know quite a bit about their personal circumstances as well, because likely is that if you're doing their corporation tax, you're probably doing their personal tax too. So you have this amazing insight. Now, there's one inalienable, inescapable fact that every single one of us that's in a business is going to leave that business one day. Now, we can react to this two ways. We can stick our head in the sand, or we can do some preparation. And one of the things that always amazes me is if you're the accountant and you have these insights, this is opening the door, and it's pushing on an open door. I mean, you would be welcomed in if you just started having these conversations. So why don't accountants have these conversations? Well, I think it's really two reasons. First of all, they probably don't want to have that conversation with themselves. And if they have it with their own clients, their clients might say, what are you doing? And it's not very good if the accountant says, not really doing anything. So there's the kind of 360 thing. So you say, if I'm not doing anything, how can I approach my clients? Well, here's the thing. It doesn't matter where you start, whether you start with yourself or whether you start with your clients, just get started. And recognizing the fact that everybody's going to leave. And so here's the first thing. Are you going to leave vertically under your own steam, or are you going to leave horizontally and leave a massive mess behind? So actually, that's almost the first question that any accountant can ask their client is, how do you think you're going to leave your business? And if the client says, well, I'm never leaving my business, it's like, great, I want to get into business with you then, because if you've got the secret to everlasting life, let's partner on marketing this baby. Typically as an accountant, you can have the kind of insightful conversations that, let's face it, almost no one else can have.
Correct.
So it's always that first step. Just it's literally one conversation, starting with what are you doing to exit your business? What are your plans to exit your business?
That makes sense. It's very, very insightful. Thanks for that. In fact, while you were talking about that, it's a reality which is going to strike. I mean, in the sense, it's life and death, those kind of certainties, it will happen. And we have gone through the capital event ourselves some time back, Christine. So I'm sure we'll pick it up later on. But just picking the cue from there. But what are the benefits that you see accounting firms can actually avail if they are really progressive and they want to offer this service to the clients that they have?
That's a really good question, because often when I speak to accountants, you'll find them moaning a bit about the fact that one of their clients got sold and they're now moving to another client, then moving to another accounting practice. And I think, well, one of the real benefits of opening that conversation, and I think there are three key benefits. I am the mistress of threes. I love them. I love threes. But there are three key benefits to the accountant. Mm-hmm. So first of all, you're engaging in a conversation that actually gets them thinking, and also gets you as the accountant thinking about how you can operate in your business. So you're generating an awareness, mm-hmm. both for yourself and also for your client. Because you've opened the conversation, and let's face it, your client may never have thought about this. You're now positioning yourself as an accountant as somebody who goes beyond compliance. So if you're thinking about how you engage in more advisory, then this is the most magic question. So it's opening an advisory, which your client is usually silently screaming for, by the way. They don't get out of bed and go, please give me some advisory. But what they are getting out of bed in the morning, and they are saying to themselves, I wish there was somebody that I trusted that would just help me. Mm-hmm. And the one person they generally trust is their accountant.
Correct.
So, and then the third thing is that if you're in that exit conversation and your client is selling, then the likelihood, depending on who they sell to, the likelihood is that they will keep you as their accountant. So it's only if the client is sold to someone who is going to jam a few companies together or two companies together, in which case it's always the biggest firm that wins, by the way.
Right.
Then typically you're more likely to retain that client because you've already got the trusted advisor role. You've already nailed that because mm-hmm. you were there when the client was literally going through their darkest days.
Correct. I think it's really sums up to having that one-stop shop and having that flavor of providing that full-blown tip-to-toe service and going into advisory, as you said. Nothing beats that. And we know it. One of the areas which accounting firms they really struggle is with advisory. Compliance is, I think, everybody's not super expert and everything is super nice. But advisory is one area where I think clearly this is one area which can be explored further. So thanks for that insight there. So Christine, just changing the gears a bit now and getting into the accounting firms arena as a whole. Now we know that exit is just not about the timing, it's about the strategy. And the fact which I was saying before that baby boomers really, while they're going out of the job market, it is such a massive, massive play. In fact, I was reading it somewhere that the average age of the CPA partner, for example, is about 52, 54. So imagine the 3, 4, 5 years down the line, and if the stock market is working well, I'm just thinking everybody's just getting ready to retire right away. So what are the problem areas that you see there while you're talking to accounting firms per se? What they should be doing, what they haven't done? Just the grays, if you can highlight that.
Oh, yeah. And it, just to be clear, this is accounting firms and any other business in the universe.
All right.
Because there's really three key problems. I told you I was the magic three, but there are really three key problems, and particularly in accounting firms too. The first of all, it's the structure of the organization if you've got people who are at the top are of an age and they've been controlling everything, and especially if it's founders, so if people who founded a business, but what I find is it's very specifically in partnership businesses. Partners or the founders, everything hangs off them. So they're so woven into the function of the business. And of course, the value that the partner or the founder feels is because, you know, that it's part of their identity, being this senior person, and they can't imagine doing anything else. So they literally build the business around them, so that they're almost like, if you think about an arch, a stone archway always has a keystone, and it's that keystone that if you remove, the bridge collapses, the arch collapses.
Right.
A big mistake that most partner-led or founder-led businesses make is that they build themselves into being the keystone. And the minute they're not there, everything starts to collapse. So for me, it's that owner reliance issue, which leads then to the other big mistake that people make is then making no plans for succession. And I'll go back to that horizontal versus vertical again.
Yeah.
Literally everybody is going to leave at some point. And you never know whether that bus that is going to come and hit you might hit you tomorrow. Correct. So the lack of succession planning, because, well, I'm not thinking of leaving for another 5 years, is it makes the business weaker. And it certainly makes partners, firms weaker, because you tend to find that if the power is consolidated, and by power I mean the decision making is all consolidated at the top, and they don't trickle that down effectively enough, then when it only takes one brick to fall out, and actually the value of the business is eliminated. And in accounting, we've got an image problem, because it's becoming more and more difficult to get young people in.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I don't think, as accountants, and I mean, I'm a SEMA accountant, but as accountant, we don't paint a nice enough picture of what the opportunities are. And so sometimes and this certainly happened to me when I was training, I would look at the people that I was training with. So I used to look at my FD and I used to think, goodness me, I don't want to do that job. If that's what I'm going to look like in 10 years time, I'm out of here. Actually, that's exactly what I did. I went and found, accountancy opened another door for me. And I was very lucky that I got that opportunity. But we don't show a really good image to bring accountancy in. And yet it's the most amazing profession. I mean, if you're nosy or just curious, you get to see insights about every client in your practice. I don't know about you, but it's like looking through someone's window without actually having to take any responsibility. And you just get to see you literally get to see the whole world, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I personally find that exciting. So, but then maybe I'm weird.
In fact, no, I absolutely agree. In fact, I remember a small joke. I'm gonna, pass it on. So, accounting and accountants, as you said, there is a certain stereotype which is attached to the profession as a whole, right? So it says that who is the most extrovert accountant that you've met? And that person is who is talking to you while looking at your shoes. Yeah, that's the most extrovert accountant that you can imagine one would get. And these are the kind of jokes we see all the time, isn't it? That being accounting is, having that big, thick glasses and sort of just doing all the numbers, and that's pretty much it. So I think if ACCA and SEMA and everyone else is listening, or CPA, I think we need to change that at the very top, because I agree, it is trustworthy, it is honest, and most importantly, I think the amount of trust which the client gives to the accountant is second to none. I think we all know that.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember someone telling me, become a lawyer because lawyers change the world. Okay. If you become a lawyer, you're more likely to become a politician, which means you're going to change your world.
Yeah.
Or the immediate world around you. Accountants can impact, and particularly from a climate change perspective, accountants are the ones that are going to bring the tools that are really going to bring effective change. And that should energize the next generation.
I
But
think we
we've
should.
got to show them how to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we should talk to Marvel or DC to create a movie called Super Accountant rather than Superman, which could probably do that for the Gen Z, the point which you were mentioning. But amazing. I absolutely get that. And just to add on there on the exit strategies, Christine, that you are absolutely expert on, is there any preferred mode of exiting for accounting firms per se? I mean, is it that you should be looking at the PE side of things now that's happening so much, or you should be looking at maybe merging with a bigger firm, or just looking at anyone who pays the max amount of money? What is the trick there?
Well, I'm afraid the answer to that is kind of it depends, and I hate that's a bit weaselly worded, but it really depends on you as the business owner. What do you really want? And because everybody's ideal exit is very different. And it's one of the things that I always do with all of my clients is I look at what does an ideal deal look like for you? And that will be all the lifestyle issues. Not money is almost the last thing. And then we'll look at what's an absolute hell no deal. It's like hell will freeze over before I take this type of deal. So you're really looking at what's really attractive and what's really not attractive. And somewhere in between there is an acceptable deal. And the mistake that most people make is that they see, and we'll come on to PE in a minute, but they see a lot of PE activity and they think, oh, that's going to get me out. It's going to get me out of the day-to-day. It's going to get me rich. It's going to make me retire. Only for them to find that the price of taking PE money is they've got to be in the business for another 5 years. And now they're an employee. And the partnership model doesn't really work very well in PE. So the PE house comes in and tries to change it, but that costs time and money. And in the meantime, to get the rest of your money out, you've got to drive fees and profitability, but you've got these drags on you from the change that's required. So I think when you look at what an ideal deal for you as an individual is, and you look at what the worst deal possible is for you, then somewhere between the ideal deal and the acceptable deal is probably where you want to be. And it will be different for every different person. Right. When it comes to PE, though, if PE is something that you want to explore, then let's get really clear on what private equity is and what they're looking for. Because and actually forget private equity money for a minute. You may be approached as a mid-tier practice by a bigger practice. And the idea of becoming part of something bigger might be very attractive to you. So if that is something that's part of your ideal deal, then get your business ready to be attractive to that kind of buyer. And that means understanding what those buyers are looking for. So I always come at it from what does life look like for you in an ideal exit? And I get people who say, look, I want to die at my desk, but I want to die at my desk only working 2 days a week. And it's like, great. Okay, now we know what we're working with. We know what the values are. But PE isn't necessarily the nirvana that a lot of people think it is. Because if you're just focusing on the money, you're focusing on the wrong thing. Because everything comes at a price. And if you don't know what the buyer is looking for, you don't know what that price is.
Super. In fact, what do you think about the cultural side of things? So I get that while you're looking at the end game that you have, what you personally want, it's going to drive majority of the actions. But what about culture, the values which an organization had or has at the moment before you do any acquisition, or of course you go out in the market? Do you see that has a major impact in the decision making?
Oh, yes, it has a major impact on the post-exit experience. And so let's go back to private equity. Private equity, you're usually looking for some very specific boxes to tick in their acquisition. So they're going to be very picky about the type of thing that they're looking for. But one of the things that, and I think we're starting to see this come through in the accounting industry as the first phase of private equity investment is now starting to think about how they recycle themselves out of those investments.
Yeah, the flip over period, yeah.
And so if we look at when they got in, what was their expectation of their return on investment, including the timeline?
Right.
And one of the biggest impacts, negative impacts, is that private equity money and the people who manage private equity funds didn't really understand the nature of traditional partner-led accounting firms. So they didn't understand the culture, and they also didn't understand that the accounting industry sadly changes at a glacial pace. And actually even that's fast. So so I think they probably, well, I know from anecdotally that many of these practices that were bought up as under a platform as part of portfolio purchases through private equity funding was they thought that they would get economies of scale, and actually that didn't really result because there were so many cultural differences. So I think private equity money that was going in maybe a decade ago, between 6 and 10 years ago, had a very different approach to the private equity that's coming in now, especially if they've already purchased practices and they've gone through the pain of trying to integrate business, different sizes of business that have got very different cultures. So culture for me is culture kills return on investment like that without anybody really seeing it until they try and until they try and get their money out at the other end. And then the returns that they were expecting right at the very beginning, they're not getting those size of returns because they've literally had to sweat blood trying to get businesses to change their culture.
I get it. In fact, so spot on it is I'm able to relate to it, what I'm seeing in the industry, and creating value, to be honest, while you are buying those accounting firms in the portfolio that you're building up. It's a massive, massive play. Whether the value can be created through consolidation of your IT side of things or through offices and lot many other things. So I think the game is on now, and this cycle, I think probably you're looking at 2-3 more years, and this is yet to be seen how it's going to play out, in terms of the ROIs for the PEs and of course the people who have been bought by the PEs. So it's going to be an interesting landscape, I guess. All right. So thank you so very much, Christine. It was super insightful. And I think whether it's preparing firms to get ready and offer the client the exit readiness, or looking at the PE money, what you should be doing, looking at the cultural aspect, everything was super insightful. I hope you enjoyed it.
No, thank you. And I will just leave with one sentence. If you are an accountant in practice and you want to engage more with your clients, just go and use this one sentence, which is, how are you thinking? What are you thinking about your exit? And honestly, they will open a conversation that will be so insightful and fruitful, and it will add profit to your bottom line.
And with this, we have come to an end of this episode. Thank you, Christine, for sharing these valuable insights, whether it's preparing firms for their next big step, planning for their own future, or navigating the rise of private equity in accounting. Today's conversation has highlighted it's just so much important to think strategically, and of course the cultural side, which Christine picked up towards the end. And thanks to the audience as well for listening in and tuning into 50 Shades of Accounting. Looking forward to catch up with the next one. Thank you.
Stay safe.